you are out there and you believe that God has wired you to pass out information, and something like facing the social media world looks very intimidating, I would say I feel you. I totally feel you. I think anything that has to do with the public just feels intimidating for some people. Um, I am one of those people that would feel intimidated being on social media, but I am also one who will not, because of intimidation, stop. I believe that God has given me strength that even when I feel intimidated and feel scared or anxious, maybe anxious is the word, um, even anxious, that sometimes I'm like, what did I want to say? Maybe I even forget what I'm trying to say. Um, I am able to still move ahead to do what I need to do. And I believe it's a gift from God. It's God strengthening me to do that. So this is my second live. The first one was last month, actually. So it's possible that you may not know me. So I'll do a little bit of introduction about myself, so that you can get to know me. So my name is Tolu Osemwegie, and I I was thinking of how to describe myself first. If I should say, my profession, what I do for a living, or what should I start with? That's usually something that we all probably at one time or the other would have considered. So, but I decided I was going to tell you first of all that I'm a Jesus baby. I think that's how I show up. Either when people are looking at me or they're not looking at me. I am a child of God, and saying child is very important to me because it gives me that feeling and that perspective of endearment. I am loved. I'm a daughter of the King. I am excited about that. So, Tolu, your girl right here is a Jesus baby. Professionally, I am a licensed professional counselor. It's a title here in the US for individuals who provide professional counseling. A lot of times we work with individuals who need mental health support. And sometimes we're in the school system providing counseling for students. So you see school counselors who are also professional counselors. And sometimes we're helping people just with life decisions. So I get to provide professional counseling for my clients, and I'm grateful that I can do that. Another thing that I also want you to know about me is that I'm married to a wonderful guy, Osas. I've been married for 16 years now, going to 17 years in a few months, actually in about 6 months. And I have two boys. I'm a mama too. The Lord has blessed me with two boys, and it's just wonderful to be their mom. I have a middle schooler and a high schooler. So I'm surrounded by boys in this house. Well, God keeps me because sometimes their energy is just too much for me. And then I am also a student, y'all. Oh my God. Takes a lot of my energy. I'm a student. I'm going through a doctoral program, and this is my second year. It does take a lot of work. It can be intensive. Thankfully, I just concluded my semester um, some days ago, this past weekend, and I am so grateful. And I'm wondering what should I do with myself now. I've been sleeping and watching movies, trying not to watch too many movies because the break is going to be over in a couple of weeks, and I still do have a lot of things to do. So trust me. Um, so today there are a couple of things that we will talk about. Definitely, we're going to talk about the year. We're going to talk about, this is December, right? We're going to talk about what it's been like from January to now, the different experiences we've had. We're also going to talk about the new year. Those are things that we will consider. And I want to encourage you that with our time together today, I will ask that you have actually something to write with, because I'll be sharing a couple of things. I'm really praying that um, we'll be able to do that within 1 hour. So I'm going to just share with you some of the reasons why it's important to reflect. And I'm also going to talk about the God part of reflection. So the intellectual part of reflection is when you do something about what's happening in your life and you think about it, but then there's a God angle that we're going to put in there. So we'll get to talk about that. So let me ask you, how was your year? How was your year? I don't know if you had time to think about it. I hope you have had time to think about it or even consider that question. Do you remember what happened in January, February, March, April, May, June, down to December? Do you remember the ups and downs? Do you want to remember? That's another thing. So there are times that we intentionally block out memories because they're just like, I don't want to remember what happened in January. That was hard. I have some things that happened to me this year that I don't want to relive. I really don't want to relive them, especially at the beginning of the year. They were hard and tough. Uh, One of the memories I have of those seasons, though, are how God helped me through those seasons. I can remember one day back in February, it was a hard day. And I remember curling up in bed. And I was just like, Jesus, hold me. In tears, I just wanted to sleep and I didn't want to think. My brain could not even think properly. I just like, hold me, Jesus. That was all I could say. I don't really want to remember all the things that led me to that point, but the truth is, there are memories that you may have that you don't want to remember. So if that's you, I'm just giving you the space. That's why I said have a pen and a paper. Maybe just write January or February. As I think about those difficult months, especially the beginning of this year, I also remember friends that stood by me, friends who covered me. Um, They covered me with encouragement, with prayer. I remember my husband's support. I remember people who were there for me. I will still get to, did you have any successful, beautiful, happy season? But I want to acknowledge that if we're going to be honest, life is ups and downs. We just have to be honest about that. It's not always rosy. You know, we can dress it up, make it all look pretty. And truly, it's not everybody who cares about what you're going through anyway. So why would you go up about shouting like, oh, I've had a bad month or a bad year? People don't really care as much. God may have blessed you with some people who care, but not everybody does. So yeah, it's okay to know how you present yourself in different spaces. But I do thank God for the people that I can be real with when I'm going through a challenging time. If you have regrets about what has happened in the past couple of months, this is a time. to actually note that yeah, I have regrets. I have regrets about the past, maybe the past month. Maybe an event pops up in your head and you're like, that one, I regret that that one happened. Um, how about now let's talk about the happy ones. How about the happy, beautiful moments that the Lord has blessed you with? Because again, God always blesses us with happy moments. What about your happy moments? Do you have happy moments? Things that you can say, oh, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus, for what you've done for me. Um, are there people that you're grateful for who the Lord used to bless you? And if you're not a Christian, so you may not even attribute that to God, and you just say, things went well in my life. That's understandable too. But did you pause though this year to give thanks and to just be thankful for those moments? You would see me pausing as I'm talking. It's not because I can't talk fast, it's because that's actually what we're doing here. We're reflecting. And reflection actually takes us being intentional, pausing, really slowing down, counting your blessings, thinking about what that event meant. I tell you, we live in a world that is so fast paced. Things are happening in our lives that we don't even remember what happened the last moment. You're just going, you're like, okay, I gotta make it. And that's what life is. So I hope that within this hour, you will, even though you may not really like it, you will just slow down. Maybe you're checking your time. You're like, hey girl, hurry up. I want to go. I want to go to the next thing. The purpose of this space is to slow you down a little bit. Um, I want you to really reflect. That's what we're doing right now. Reflect. Okay. Reflect on the happy moments. Reflect on the not so happy moments. The regrets. At least write it down. That happened. That was good. You know, have you gained new perspective right now? That's another thing that I want you to think about. Have you gained new perspective? Maybe you started the year, you thought, oh, I could not live without this situation. I cannot live without this person. Life has to go this direction. But here you are in December and you're thinking, I did not have what I thought I needed to have. That person walked out of my life or they stayed in my life, but do you have a different perspective to life? Do you appreciate someone better, life better, God better, yourself better? Do you have a different perspective? So write that down too as something that maybe you can do on your own because as I'm talking, of course, you can't process everything that I'm going to move to another thing to consider. So maybe at least write it down. Like, do I have a different perspective this year? What has changed? For me, some things have changed. The way that I actually look at God has changed because I have found out this year, it's a reminder really that there's nothing he cannot do. He's reminded me over and over this year. And sometimes I don't even have to see him working. He just shows up because he's God. So um, my capacity has stretched this year. I broke limits that I did not think I could break. I overcame things that my anxiety used to tell me was impossible. And some people are still going through the hard time right now. So I'm not going to say because it's December, the problem has ended. For some of us, some of the things we were struggling with in January, we're still struggling with them now. We still don't know. Maybe we were in the dark in January about some things we're still in the dark about them now. And that can be hard. So there's a lot that we're going to cover. And when I move from one thing to the other. I want to acknowledge where you are because, like I said, I want this place to be a safe space where, even though it's not like you're talking, I'm talking, I want you to know that you're seen, definitely by God. Um, I want you to feel like you're known and you're loved. So that's why I will mention different scenarios because I want you to um, hopefully be able to connect to something that I'm saying. And when I share something that looks like, oh, that's me, hopefully you can chat and say, yeah, I connect with that. Or just know it in your heart, even if you don't chat it, just know it in your heart. Like, yeah, I've been through that. I've thought like that. Or I know someone who's been through that. And I want to encourage you to definitely share this with someone else that you think might need to reflect. So, what is reflection? So, if reflection is not a word that you're used to, let me just say a little bit about reflection. What is reflection? What does it mean to be reflective? It's usually when you process or you take an event that happened maybe during the day or during the year or even years ago, and you kind of zoom into it because you want to gain understanding about it. Now, what many of us do is not that we reflect. A lot of us, what we do is we worry about an event. We think about it, but we're doing a lot of worrying. We're doing a lot of negative thinking. We pick up something from the past and then we decide that because this happened, this bad thing is going to happen tomorrow. In fact, some of us use negative events to stop us from really pursuing what God has asked us to pursue. Well, that is not reflection, although you're thinking about an event, which is something that we do when we reflect. But reflection usually has a positive connection to it, and that is when you can pick maybe an event and you can actually break it down to what really happened here. Can I gain some insight here? Can I learn so that I can move forward? There are different ways that I can learn from it. And so let's say that you want to reflect today. You can decide, I want to reflect about my relationships. I want to reflect about my relationship, maybe at home. You can reflect about your relationship. You can reflect about your family or your significant other. You can reflect about your relationship on your job. How has it been this year? How have I really communicated and grown in my conversations? You can reflect about your career. Am I achieving what I wanted to achieve? Where am I going? Am I lost? You can pick different aspects of your life. You can say, my career, about your physical health and your mental health. You can reflect on those as well. So there are different aspects of our lives that we can pick up and say, I want to reflect upon. Or you can just say, generally, what pops up in my head. You can pick the aspects of your life that give you that ick, that feeling of dissatisfaction. So maybe you're not saying I'll pick maybe relationship or I'll pick career, but you just let your heart, where am I not satisfied? Maybe that can be a pointer to what you will reflect on. So if you can have a second now or a moment, just think to yourself and say, what area of my life am I feeling dissatisfied about right now? Or what area of my life have I abandoned? How about that? What area of my life do I feel like there's an elephant in the room and I have not given attention to it? How about that? We use elephant in the room sometimes when we're talking about maybe you are in the space with other people and something is not going right. How about within yourself? You can have an elephant in the room within yourself. So think about that. What area of my life I just abandoned. I'm not ready to face it. I don't know how to face it. So if you have a note and a pen or something, you can actually do that and just say, this area of my life, I have not given it attention. So I want to just mention a few things, benefits of reflection. I'm saying let's reflect. Why? When we reflect, it promotes self-awareness. You become more conscious of yourself and what's happening. You are aware of your thoughts, you're aware of your behaviors, you're aware of your emotions. So I'm in the mental health field where we work with a lot of people going through different challenges. And one of the first things we always want to do is help people to be self-aware. If you are a reflective person, if you make reflection a practice, you will be self-aware. And when I have clients, I usually know those who are naturally reflective or who have cultivated the habit of reflection. What I find out is that they can actually say, okay, this is the problem. This is when it happened. This is what I'm doing to work on it. A lot of people are not able to say what's happening because life keeps going and they don't slow down. So if you make reflection a practice, it helps you to be self-aware. Has it ever occurred to you, or have you ever been in this situation where you were going through something, you're sad, but you really can't say what and why? You're feeling a type of emotion, maybe a lot of emotions, but you couldn't say exactly which one you're feeling. Sometimes you're happy and sad at the same time. Sometimes you just feel like a basket of mess. I feel like that and I reflect. But usually when I see that my emotions are all over the place, I pause and I ask myself, what is really happening here? So reflection is very good because it helps us. It just promotes self-awareness. So if you feel like you're not very self-aware of yourself, what's happening, I'll encourage you to try reflection. Try reflection. And then it wakes us up. It wakes us up to life. It just wakes you up. Smell the roses, know what's happening. If you are very reflective, you'll be conscious of your environment, of yourself, of people around you. So if you're feeling like I've been spending days in a fog, things are foggy. I just feel like I'm just waking up, going. You're probably not reflecting a lot. So try to slow down and reflect. And I'll give you an example of how you can do that. It also teaches us to think before we act. If you've ever had a problem with doing stuff and you were like, why did I just do that? Or why did I just say that? A lot of times we reflect, we're responding so fast to life that we don't have time to actually pause. Usually people who are reflective have learned to pause. Generally, they've learned to pause, especially when you reflect every day. If you pause every day, maybe during just even during the day or at night, when someone is having a conversation with you, there is a likelihood that even as they're talking, you're reflecting. So it might just save you a lot of trouble, like you're not blotting things out because you have a practice of reflection. So if you're like, I talk before I think a lot of times, I will encourage you to try reflection. It might help. And then it also helps us to identify stress points. It also helps us to avoid burnout. A lot of burnout. I'm in an industry where there's a lot of burnout. People in the health industry, like you're helping people a lot, like doctors, nurses, therapists, anything that the service industry where you're doing a lot for other people. There is a high tendency, teachers, there's a high tendency that you will have a lot of burnout if you don't create space and time to reflect. Now we do self-care stuff, like I want to do my nails recently. And for me, that's part of the self-care stuff that I do. But beyond that, I have to think about events and situations and write down my thoughts and then eventually turn them into prayers. So it's very helpful. It also promotes wisdom, because by the time you're thinking about life, you're thinking about what has happened, you're looking for insight, wondering what happened, how can I be better, um, getting information from the past for the future. That is wisdom that you're building for yourself. It helps you to be wise, but it also helps to build compassion for other people. You just are a little bit more compassionate because you're having understanding about how life works. And when we grow understanding about how life works, it helps us to become compassionate. So how do we do this thing? How do we do reflection? I've challenged you to think about this year. What has happened for you this year? The good, the bad, and the ugly. You need to create time to sit down and say, this happened. All right. So that is the first thing to do. To be reflective, you need to be intentional with creating time. I'm not going to say 30 minutes or 10 minutes, or I'm not going to put a number, but it takes time. If that's not what you do, you don't like sitting with yourself, it might be hard, but you help yourself. um, some people do well with their cup of tea or coffee. I'm not a coffee person. I do tea. Whatever will help you to be in a relaxed state, not a falling asleep state. When we're not saying fall asleep, we want you to be active, to still be very present. Just look for a quiet place, and some people do this monthly, some people do this once in a year. I would recommend that you do it daily. Just make it something that you do all the time. But if you are coming from no reflection to, okay, I want to start being reflective, I understand if it might take a while for you to make it a daily practice. So you want to start with it takes time. So you just gotta have it in your mind that time is the currency for reflection, y'all. Time is the currency. And then decide what you want to focus on. Again, like I said before, maybe you're feeling like there's an elephant somewhere, some part of you feeling uncomfortable about something, or some part of you is feeling excited about something. Like, I'm excited. Why? You might want to find out. Or I'm emotional all of a sudden. Or why was I emotional today? It could be hormones, it could be something more. To just give yourself time to find out what it is, right? It could be my career, it could be my relationships, or what he said to me, what she said, what they didn't say. What is it? Find time to think about it, please. Now, I will admit that there are distractions. There are lots of distractions. Life is challenging. Some of us don't even have a break. I know people who work on their feet all day. They don't have a break to sit down to eat. If they have a little time to eat, ah, thank God. So it makes the act of reflection just look impossible. Like, Tolu, if you're listening to me and you're like, Tolu, I don't have that time to give. And by the end of the day, I'm too tired. I just go straight to bed. I knock out. I don't even remember what to think about. I know that's a challenge. But I know you've been thinking all day, even while you were working. Those 20, well, not 24 hours because you sleep, maybe 8 hours that you worked, your brain was working. You can actually focus what your thoughts are going to be on. It can be on your job, but if any part of you wants to, oh, I want to remember that movie, or, just want to stray, you can say, oh, let me just think through that happy thing or that thing that make me feel uncomfortable, and use that time to just reflect in your head. It's not something that is complicated. It sounds like it's a big, huge thing, but it's actually something that you can make a habit. Just a few minutes and you're done. Okay. Um, Successes can be a distraction too. I've talked about life challenges being distractions, but sometimes we're so happy we don't even want to think or worry about anything. We're like, ooh, everything is going great. I don't need to reflect. But life creeps on us. Life creeps on us. So you always want to be prepared. Even when things are going great, make it a habit of reflection. Just reflect. Think about the event. What happened? Think about the first way your mind is interpreting what happened. So this happened. I had a conversation earlier today with my loved one. This is an example. And they said something that makes me feel like they are angry at me, or maybe they don't really care about me. So what do I do? I could go on the negative route, which is, oh, they don't care about me, they don't love me, I'm angry, and I can start remembering all the things they've ever done wrong. That's a possibility, but that's not really making the best use of my reflection. Instead of picking up things from the past, I can also say, well, I know this person, I know they love me, and they could be stressed, and who knows, they're having a bad day. Or maybe they don't really care about me, But what would my response be? My response, should it be to do something to let them know I don't care about you either, or to just ask the Lord to guard my heart, the heart that has been hurt, and help me to still be the girl that He's been teaching me to be, that girl that loves unconditionally. So that's reflection. I took time to think about what happened, and I took time to say, this is how I'm going to work going forward. Now, as you plan for the new year, those are big issues. And you think about 2025, what do you want? What has happened this year? Did you have goals? Did you have goals for 2024 that you feel like it's December 2024 and none of it happened? I'm here, my 2024 goals did not happen. I'm just going to roll them over to 2025, which you can do. You can just roll them over. Or you can consider, let me look at the goals again. Why did I pick these goals? Are they still important to me? What happened? Why did I not achieve them? Is it because I didn't work hard to achieve them? Did I break them down into achievable steps? Do I even know how to achieve them? Did I look for support? Was I just praying and waiting for something supernatural, or was I realistic? Those are reflection moments. Am I giving up, or am I believing that they can happen? You need to be able to think about those things. So those are things that you can do when you reflect. Now I got to talk about the supernatural, because I've been spending time to talk about our intellect, what we do as humans. And honestly, you might have heard about reflections or planning for 2025, maybe from another channel, maybe from your pastor, or maybe you personally have done research. You know how to set goals. You know how to do this thing I'm talking about. Maybe for some of you listening to me, that's not your problem. You're like, I got this down, girl. I've been reflecting for only God knows how long. If that is you, I wonder if you see that there is another part of reflection, which is the supernatural side. That's the God part. Now, we might use our intellect to plan and do all these things, but we know that we don't have everything under control. God still decides how life turns. God decides how life turns. Proverbs 19:21 says that many plans are in a man's mind, but the Lord's purpose is the Lord's purpose that will stand. Proverbs 19:21. So you and I can decide what we want to do, but God's plans and purposes stand. And a lot of times, God's plans and purposes can't be caged into a 12-month year. There are times that what he told you, what you know he told you, the Lord told me when I was 5 years old or when I was 15 years old that I will be this and that. Now I'm 40, I'm not yet this or that. You're counting in age and all that, but you don't know what God's timetable looks like and what God's schedule looks like. And does that make him a wicked God? No, it does not make him a wicked God. It doesn't make him a wicked God. But it teaches us something to surrender. Surrender might be a word that you don't like a lot. Initially, I didn't like it when I was much younger. The idea of surrendering was just, oh, it was hard. It's a vulnerable space to surrender, but it is a good thing if you know who you're surrendering to. So the person who is calling us to surrender is very good. He's not someone who just wants to take over your life and do your life as he likes. God is a good God. Um, I know that I have questioned God's goodness in my life before, and I'll say I didn't know better. I was much younger than now. I was going through a couple of challenges in my life, and I asked God, God, what are you doing with my life? Like, what was the deal here? What are you doing? I felt like a puppet. I felt like God was just closing all the doors around me. I felt like God placed me in a situation that was difficult. It was hard to thrive for me. And then I saw somebody else suffering that I loved. I was like, God, what are you doing? It was hard. So are you in a place where you question God's goodness? Because we're talking supernatural now and we're talking about God, and you're like, count me out. He's not been faithful to me. I hear people say he's faithful, but I don't personally believe that he's faithful. I don't know what you think right now. Do you agree with me that he is good? I've had, as I look back, even that situation where I questioned God, and I wish I was able to tell you that was the only time, but more than once I've gone through issues where I was really like, okay, God, where are you and what are you doing? If you feel like that, I hope that he showed himself faithful, because for me, that's what he did. The ways and places that I questioned God, he showed me that he is faithful. So you have a good God. You have a God who is merciful. Now, with mercy, why I love mercy is mercy covers our mistakes. You know, we're human, we make mistakes. It covers our flaws. Grace and mercy cover our flaws. So they say you have to be hardworking, you have to have a 5-year plan. I remember when I was I'm still a young adult, but in my 20s, um, the words out there was like, you need to, especially when I started my career, you would hear people say, what's your 5-year plan? I had no idea what my 5-year plan was. I was like, let me just do this next couple of months. Even 1-year plan was like, yeah, how do I think about 1 year? Talk less of 5 year or 10-year plan. What are you talking about? I didn't see that far. I was making decisions on the go. I probably made wrong decisions. I did not even know how to reflect. I did not know how to make sense of what life was throwing at me. And that's where God's mercy comes in. Because I've talked to you about reflection, you think about the past, you try to make sense of the future. What if you do all that and we still don't go nowhere with it? That's where God's mercy comes in place. So I don't want you to just think about this like an intellectual exercise. You got to put God in it. You got to put God in it. God is the person that makes our efforts make sense. In fact, He can also help us when we don't even know that we're supposed to put effort in a direction. Because there are times you put effort in a direction, you see progress. But then there are times you're supposed to be putting it in a different direction, you had no idea. But God can still bring progress there. It has happened for me. So I know it can happen for you. And that's where mercy speaks. That's where grace speaks. Favor can speak. So at the end of the year, typically, let me share this testimony with you. Um, Growing up, way back in Nigeria, I was part of a church, Daystar Christian Center. Shout out to my Daystar Christian Center brothers and sisters. And I know it's not the only church that does it, but one of the things that our pastor encourages us to do at the end of the year is to write our plans for the following year, and then you bring it to church, and then, you pray over it. And that's part of reflection. You write down what you want for the new year. Hopefully you're thinking back about the year to write down what happened, what you want in the new year. So even when I left Nigeria coming to US, I would do it. My husband and I would do it as a family. For some reason in 2017, December, as the year was running to an end, I think from November, I started thinking, I don't have a plan for next year. I don't want to have a plan for next year. So I remember sometime in December, my husband had asked me, 2017 December, he had asked me, are you writing your goals down for next year? I said, no. He said, why? I said, no, I don't want to write. And I think, I don't know. I don't know what came over me. I don't know if I was tired of just writing goals and feeling like some of them didn't come to pass, or I felt like the exercise of writing down my goals was becoming too mechanical, and I didn't think that something was really coming from within me. It was like, okay, I'm doing it because I know I'm supposed to do it and think about the year, but I wanted something beyond that process. I wanted something, how would you say it? I think I wanted God to just do something. Like I needed God to do something. So I told my husband, I'm not writing. Typically we would raise our journal or whatever and pray at the end of the year. I was just like, God, I don't have any plan for 2018. I don't. But I'm okay with your plan. And I know you have a plan for 2018. So whatever your plan is, I'm on board. That was kind of my prayer in December of 2017. I said, God, whatever your plan is, I'm on board. So it wasn't like I was lazy. It was an open book. I wanted to just flow with God. 2018 came up, bang, bang, with God just showing up. I started my practice in 2018. I did not go into 2018 thinking that I will have a business, that I will quit my job and start my practice. It was not on the table. But as I prayed, because I remained prayerful, by beginning of February, it just clicked. You're starting your practice. I reflected. I went to bring out all my journals. I started reading through the things that I had written down since 20 years ago about what I wanted for my life. I wrote them down and I prayed. And before I knew it, people, I was like, I told my husband, I remember the conversation in February. I was like, I'm going to start my practice. I sent a message to some of my friends and family. I told them I'm going to start this and start that. I started a whole new thing that I did not know that I was going to do in December, but I did it. In 2018, I started. By December 2018, December 31st, 2018, I quit my full-time job and to start face my counseling business full-time. And I knew there was so much more that God would have for me. But this is to tell you and just show you that you need to be able to plan and reflect and let God be over that. As you hear me, I hope you're not hearing just formulas. Do this, do that, do. I hope you're hearing the underlying importance of reflection, but at the same time, you're hearing that God has to be over it. God has to be over it. Now, I will say, beware of fear. Fear, Fear. Beware of fear, the fear of failure. Many of us don't make plans because of fear. We've made mistakes, we've planned, like I said, and we just thought, what's the essence of doing this? But I want to encourage you, be intentional about spending time to do this. Like, this is important, y'all. This is not like do it if you like kind of thing. This is like really important for life. You know, if you don't want life to just happen and you're like, what has been happening to me for the last 20 years or the last 10 years or the last 12 months? Some of us can't really say this is what's happening, and it's because we've really not been reflecting. And it's hard when life hits you with challenges, like with loss, like with heartbreaks, like with success. Like I said, it's not only bad things that becomes a distraction to reflection. Even good things become distractions to reflection. So, but you got to be intentional. So put it in your mind, schedule it. Like, I'm going to reflect before I go to bed, or maybe like a quarterly reflection. However it is, you can do like those small chunks every day. When something gets heavy on your heart, just pause a little bit to reflect. Or you say, I want to do a heart check once a month, once a week. But do it. It's not going to be easy. So let's just say this is a habit you want to cultivate. It's not an easy habit to cultivate, but it's a very good habit to cultivate, and it has lots of return on investment. I tell you, your life, you're just going to be clearer. You're just going to feel like, I know what's happening part-time. Like, I know, even in the midst of trouble, life hits us, but because you have a reflective whatever you are in, you know what's happening. A couple of weeks back, and I put it on Facebook, and I was going through a hard time. I felt attacked spiritually. Not just felt, I was, but I felt it physically, emotionally. But because I had a habit of reflection, I knew what was happening. Even when it felt like I was rear-ended by the enemy, I could name it, like, this is out of the norm. This is not. This is happening. And I could picture in my head where God was. Like, God is in the midst of this with me. He's not out there. Fear was trying to make me feel like I was alone. God was reminding me that He was with me. But it was easy for me to know that in the midst of that, because I have a habit of reflection. And so in that space, as hard as the enemy was trying, I knew what was happening, and I knew where to run to. I knew where my strength was coming from. In my reflection, I knew that I needed support. So I had my friends that I could talk to and share with them what I was going through, and they could cover me in prayer. And when I didn't know how to feel, because a lot of emotions were coming up, like Brittany talked about, the sadness, the grief, the pain, I wasn't sure how to process my emotions or even mentally process what I was going through. There was one thing that was sure: God was with me. God was with me. He literally carried me. I had a mental picture of Him carrying me through the hard time. So in case you're here and you're going through a hard time and you're like, I don't know, reflection will help you to just surround yourself with God, and at least you can identify you need God. So I have identified through the process of reflection what's important to me. I know God is my number one priority. Now you decide who's your number one priority or what is your number one priority. For me, it's God. Uh, If I have Him, I'm good. I'm good. So I knew that when anything tries to attack me, He's going to be there to help me. And He's always been there to help me. Reflection helps me to know that He's faithful because I think back. So you got to reflect because that's where you get the strength for the future. Now, 2025 is coming. I really don't know what 2025 is going to be like politically, financially. I have desires, but I really don't know what all those things will really be like because I don't control a lot of things, honestly. Um, I might know some things to do, but I don't have the strength to do everything that I need to do. But I know God knows. So ultimately, with reflection, you better trust someone who's in control. That person is not you. You don't really have a lot of control. That person is God. And that's why he's called God. Like he's in charge of. So if you can have someone like that to be your father, like I introduced myself at the beginning as Jesus baby, and I'm shameless about it, y'all. I'm Jesus baby. I don't care what anybody says. He loves me. I love him. I don't love him as much as he does. I can't. He's God. But I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful that whatever shades of me come out, he's always there. I wanted us to spend time to pray as we close. So I don't know if you have something to write. Maybe you were writing. I don't know where your mind is right now. Why don't you eh, just thank God that you can actually reflect. You know, some people can't. Um, they can't. Some people cannot comprehend that. So you have the ability to hear what I'm saying and understand and actually hopefully put it to use. So thank him for that. Also thank him for how the year has gone, whether painful or not. And just I would say, can you put your fears before the Lord and just ask him that you trust him to take care of it. That thing that makes your heart shiver, like I don't want to go through that again next year, Jesus. That was painful this year. I don't want it to happen again. That thing that makes you feel like you can't trust it enough to plan. Can you present it to God in this place of reflection? And maybe you have some joys and successes, and you're like, I don't know that they'll stay long enough. What if something bad happens? Maybe you're afraid of failure. Can you give that fear to the Lord? Trust me, like Brittany said, He can handle anything, our emotions, our fears. Oh, can you give them to God? If there's any elephant in your space, in your heart, give it to the Lord. So I'll pray for us now. Dear Father, I trust that you are here. I shared a couple of things from what the wisdom and just the knowledge that you've given me. Thank you for Brittany, who could also share from her experience. But one thing that I know, and what you've reminded me as I prepared for this time, is that you are the one who makes all the difference. And I just submit to you for my life and for the lives of those who are watching me today and those who will still watch this. Oh, Jesus, we confess, I confess, and on behalf of anyone who agrees with me that you are sovereign, you're Lord, you're in charge. We're not. We've tried it. I've tried it before, to be in charge of my life, to be in charge of my future, and I fell flat. I could not even control everything happening within my house, talk less of what's happening in the country or the world. You can. And big things are happening right now in our world and next year. And many of us have this underlying concern, maybe fear of how our lives will turn out. But as we reflect on your goodness, that you have been good so far. In fact, generations before us tell of your goodness. We see in the Bible how you were good to them. I see how you were good to my parents. I hear testimonies of your goodness in people's lives who have shared with me how you were good to them. I am a recipient of your goodness. I can reflect that. And I say, God, please help us to trust that you will still be good for tomorrow. That you will be good till the end of this year, 2024. You will be good in 2025, and forever you will be good. Because your word says that for the Lord is good and his love, mercy endures forever. You're not quitting on us. You're not quitting on any of us. Not on me, not on them. You're not quitting on us. You love us in a way that we cannot comprehend, beyond our comprehension. You don't love us because we're good. You love us because you chose to love us, because you yourself are love. Help us to understand that. If anyone is here, Lord, who does not feel or think that they deserve your love, can you let them know? Remind them in your own beautiful, special way that you do love them and your love covers whatever they think that is too big, that disqualifies them. And I pray, Lord, because we are not ignorant of the devices of the enemy, that you just take charge and destroy all the plans of the enemy in the lives of those listening to me. I'm not ignorant that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. I'm not ignorant that the enemy comes to attack our minds, even when we're trying to be calm and stay calm. I'm not ignorant that there are spiritual attacks. I'm not ignorant of political and financial challenges. I'm not ignorant of things that could go wrong, but I am very aware that you are above all of those. So I say in the name of Jesus that you will be a wall around all of us, around me, around them, that your mercy will speak for us. Father, let your mercy speak for us. Let your mercy call our name and say, not this one. This one is protected. This one is covered. I pray, oh God, that we all experience your mercy speaking and fighting for us, Lord. Some of us are in battles that we don't even understand how we got there, how we're going to get out. I pray that your mercy speaks for us. Help us to find that time of calmness within our souls to spend time with you and to prioritize you above all. Those who might be going through mental and emotional dysregulation, I pray, God, that you do what therapy may not be able to do, that you break the ranks and go into their hearts and calm their hearts, Lord. I thank you again for the success of this time together. I pray that your blessings will always be on us. Lord, we love you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging in with me. This is not the kind of information that you hear once. Hopefully you come back again and listen. If there's any part of this that you want to just remind yourself of course, I'm going to make sure that the link is always available for you to listen to, and please share with other people if it was a blessing to you. Y'all, it's going to be a great year. a great 2025. If you want to share your plans for the year, if you need more thoughts around this planning for the year, or if you need some kind of coaching or guidance for the year, you can DM me, send me a private message, and we can talk more about it. All right, y'all. Bye bye.